Welcome back and thank you for joining us. And if you're just joining us, this is still the Breakfast Show on Bright Television, channel 102, the home of talk and entertainment. We are live on TSTV Africa. You can also follow us on our social media platforms, Facebook. I'm sure the social media handles will be going up on your screen. You can follow up on Facebook, BRTV, on Instagram, BRTV_TSTV. To just get in on our conversations, to get us your comments and your feedbacks on any of our topics of conversation. Now, we apologize for the abrupt change in schedules. Our guest is already with us on the virtual call, so we're going to quickly be having the conversation. Now, our topic for conversation this morning is something that is not new to us already, because this story actually broke yesterday. The Lagos State Judiciary panel that was set up for inquiry.
It broke 2 days ago.
Yes, it broke 2 days ago actually. Thank you for that correction. The judiciary panel that was set up to inquire about the Lekki tollgate massacre submitted their findings to the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo, and a lot has been going on online. A lot of reactions, a lot of people have seen. Yes, a lot of people have seen the reports, and the social media has gone haywire. Because a lot of people have demands, a lot of people are furious, a lot of people have been more.
A lot of people are demanding for answers.
A lot of people are demanding for answers. A lot of people are asking the popular question: what's next? What action is the government going to take? Now, this morning we're going to be having a guest who's already joined us. He's a barrister. He's a member of the Nigerian Bar Association, a legal practitioner. His name is Barrister Dindam Killi. Good morning and lovely to have you in the studio, sir.
Good morning. Lovely to
My colleague here is Mr. Abayomi Agbomire. He's going to be joining us on the conversation this morning.
Morning, Mr. Bayo.
Now, like I already said, a lot of us have seen the reports that the judiciary panel released concerning the Lekki tollgate massacre, and it has raised quite a lot of conversations already. Now, we want to get your input as a legal practitioner on the implications of this report, based on the fact that before this happened, a lot of government parastatals have come out to refute have come out to basically deny that these incidents ever happened. Now, from a legal perspective, what is the implications of the report first on the Lagos State government?
Okay, thank you. As we all know, the panel was set up under the Tribunals of Inquiry Law of Lagos State, and their mandate was clearly set out. This was what was expected of them at the end of the day. I must first of all commend the Lagos State government for allowing the panel to run its course without interference, and I commend the members of the panel as well. It's a well thought out report. Now, the next step after submission to the governor is for the governor to come out with a white paper, even though that is not specifically stated in the law that it is required to be done, but there's a report that some recommendations that the governor would have to make based on the report and the recommendations of the committee. That is what is expected next. It's left to be seen whether all the recommendations of the panel will be accepted by the government. Some of them are clearly within the ambit of the powers of the governor. Some of them I know he will have to rely on some other agencies to implement them. For example, recommendations about members of the armed forces and the police force. You know, that's not within his purview per se. He has to rely on the Inspector General of Police. He has to rely on the Chief of Army Staff or Chief of Defense Staff, as the case may be, for those particular recommendations to be implemented. But some others, I believe, the governor can clearly do. Compensation to the victims, setting up appropriate machinery for avoiding such occurrences in future is something I believe the governor can do. And I must say that from the body language of the governor, let me not say I'm an expert in body language, but from his body language, I suspect that what is within his power to do, he would do so. So it's left to be seen what will come out of his report. I recall that the Chief of Defense Staff yesterday even said that he wasn't going to comment on the white paper until he sees, on the report, until he sees an official white paper from the government. So I guess that's the next step. Yeah.
That's lovely piece. Now, I would like to ask a question, sir. the reports, based on what we've been getting on social media and also what people have been saying, also in a way indicates that the governor is also complicit in the whole incident. And there have been people who have been demanding that the governor should probably tender his resignation or hand over the case to the judicial panel, to the judiciary of the state to handle it. How do you think this can be done legally? What is your input legally as regards this, sir?
Okay, so part of the things he can do under the law, setting up the tribunal, the panel of inquiry, is that he can also in coming up with the recommendations, also make any order that he wishes to, and submit that to the registrar of the High Court, which would now be registered as a judgment of the court for implementation. But then we are talking of the chief executive who set up the panel here. I wouldn't think that he would by himself make an order that he be punished for that recommendation. I would doubt that that will be done. But I know that there's a lot of clamor that he should be punished. Some even said he should be impeached and removed from office. I know people are angry now that the report is out and confirms what they had always said. But we must also cut some slack for the governor. I'm not holding brief for him, but we must cut some slack for him. For all the states in the Federation who said they were going to respond to the NSAS protesters' demands, this is the first panel that has concluded work and has come up with a report. I don't know what is happening to the other panels. I don't even know whether they are willing to conclude what they've started. The governor made sure he saw this through, gave them an extension when it was necessary. If he does accept that he was responsible for calling on the army, I think that should be some restitution and probably apologize to everybody who was involved. But to take it that far may not be as, I'm not sure that is something that may happen. But we should also try and cut some slack for the government. But somebody had said something that I picked up yesterday. He said, nonetheless, there should be hard decisions that will be taken. Some of these involved even actors post the Lekki shooting incident, some before the Lekki shooting incident. And you must show that there is some retribution for acting beyond your powers under law. Some people should take the fall. I think some people should take the fall, even if it's some suspension, if you have to be removed from your office. For example, responders who didn't come on time, denial of medical access to those who were injured. Somebody should take the fall, whatever the case may be. Yeah.
Yes, I love this. I agree with you on commending the Lagos State government for being proactive with this issue. They were really on top of their game, even though we had some dissatisfied members of the panel leave. Because I remember one of the youth figures that was in the panel.
Yeah, one of the
she said she wasn't.
Stepped down.
Yes, she stepped down from the panel because she wasn't too convinced with the findings. But I'm happy. I watched an interview yesterday. She was back on air, and she said she really liked how the panel handled it. She liked their findings. Now, my question is, we have some prominent characters in our Nigerian government system who came out to boldly state that the videos were staged, it was all acted, it was a green screen, and this endangered the life of a particular DJ Switch, who had come out to social media to say that her life was in danger. She had had to seek for help, she had to hide. There were even rumors that she went to seek asylum in Canada. And we have other prominent activists in this movement who were also seen as to say that they had been threatened, that their sanity had been put to the test. Now, in trying to amend or make amends for these issues that happened, what do you think the governments, apart from not the government of Lagos State, now the federal government, what do you think they can do about this legally and otherwise?
Sorry, Tony, there's some interference from your end.
I'll take that again. I was talking about a certain minister came out to say that the claims that a Lekki massacre happens were false, that videos that we had seen flooding the social media were doctored by a particular...
Different people in the government.
Different people in the government actually came out
not
to
just
say
the
this.
minister. There were a lot of there was a lot of reports from high-up officials in the government, advisors, ministers who said this didn't happen. Even representatives of the army. I remember at first when the press spokesman, the press spokesman for the Nigerian Army came out at the very initial stage and said the Nigerian Army was never there. Later, I think the Attorney General from Justice said that it was bandits. You know, they were different. They had even
gone as far as saying that international bodies that reported this case were
being biased.
Yes, and they had them pull down their clips and their videos. Now, I was talking about the Nigerians who were actively involved in this, who had said that their lives had been threatened, they had lost their means of livelihood, they have had to seek asylum. Like we had rumors that DJ Switch had to seek asylum in Canada. Now I'm asking, what can the federal government do legally in terms of compensating for the losses that occurred and for the sanity of these Nigerians who they had put to the test? Because mentally this had been really draining on a lot of Nigerians, for the fact that we witnessed this with our eyes, even those of us behind the screens also witnessed this, and they had come out to say that the whole of about 1 million of youths were at fault and they had lied and this was doctored. What can the federal government do legally to ensure that this doesn't repeat itself, that actions are properly taken against bodies responsible for what happened or what transpired at the Lekki toll gate?
Okay. I know the federal government is in the center of all of this. The protest started as the youths kicking back against a federal body, which is the police. That Lagos turned out to be the epicenter. It's only because of its cosmopolitan nature and all of that. The federal government and the officials who denied the clips at the time, I would also say some of the angles of the videos were not as clear, so there were a lot of reportage supporting the video clips to show what really happened. I watched DJ Switch's video. I saw blood, but I believe in the confusion and all of that, nobody will take the time to professional videos that will be used later. So it gave room for doubts, which I believe if you are trying to defend the government, it wouldn't be difficult for you to say you have your doubts about this and they were doctored and all of that. And even the CNN report, I think, relied largely on these amateur eyewitness videos, which, like I said, wouldn't have been very clear if it were a professional that was doing it. You will know the right angles to cover. And so the panel of inquiry was, because it was supposed to be a fact-finding mission. Thankfully, at the end of the day, they've been able to establish that indeed these things happened based on the limited evidence that was presented before them, because I understand a lot of victims' families were afraid to show up. So only those who had the courage to actually come testify could be captured as those who were casualties. So I expect that with this report, at least the government would know that apart from what you said international media did and eyewitness accounts were, you could see that both sides have been heard. The Lekki concession company was there. I think part of the evidence they gave was very important to the findings of that on that point by the panel. I think the government should do the needful. If you want to heal the wounds, you want to assuage the fears and the hurts of the teeming youth who participated in this protest, appropriate measures should be taken. I mentioned that the Lagos State government does not have the power to deal with echelons in the military, for example, and the police. One of the ways is to take it off from there, take that portion of the recommendation and see how you implement it. Call those officers to order. Of course, we know that they have given their best to this country in defending the territorial integrity, but there are different ways I believe the armed forces can deal with the issue. That will show that the government is committed to reconciling the wounds from the NSAS protest, the peak of which was the 20th October incident. For those who had to leave, for example, DJ Switch. I think it will make some sense if officially the government is able to give some comfort that nothing would happen to you for what you've done for your participation in the NSAS protest, because I saw that that was a recommendation that was missing. I expected the panel to at least say that we recommend that anybody who was involved in this and who could not come forward because of a fear for his life or his safety should be given some kind of amnesty. Whatever action that was deemed to have been taken beyond the scope or powers as an ordinary citizen should be forgiven, because we know that, I thought that there would be that kind of recommendation, because that will cover people like this Switch that you mentioned. But it doesn't stop there. The Lagos state government can still do that with its own recommendations. The federal government can take up that as well and give that comfort, so that anybody who is involved in this can freely come back, freely participate in the development of this country. That is what I would like to suggest that the federal government does. Now, in reforming the police, there has been a new police act. The NSAS has, the SARS unit has been disbanded. There just needs to be more investment in that angle. Ensure that the police is retrained, trained and retrained. There is no limit to how much training they can get. Because there are still pockets of reports here and there of police officers acting as if they are still members of the disbanded unit. So that's what I would expect from the government. If laws are required to do this, then why not?
Yeah, well, I was asking that from the legal perspective, as a legal practitioner, what's the legal implementation or the legal constraints that explains why the military could attack unarmed protesters, civilians? Let's put it this way: the military is sworn to protect life and property. The armed forces are their basic job is to protect life and properties, and they then turn on the people they are supposed to protect. What does this mean legally, sir? That's the question.
In the first place, the military ought not to have been at the Lekki toll gate. That was something that should have been handled by the police without indicting any of the arms of either military or paramilitary. I know that over time, because of the several challenges that this nation has been facing security-wise, the armed forces have been stretched, the police has been stretched. The protest started on the 12th, and for the ensuing days, the police had been involved. I saw videos of police standing by, even taking refreshment from protesters. It was all going well. But I guess almost everywhere in the world, when a protest gets this, then it becomes a thing of concern to the government. When it begins to grow in the manner in which it was growing, because I saw that it was happening in even states that you did not expect that youth would protest. Protests were coming up. So there was a need to stop that, nip that in the bud. The strategy employed was what was wrong. The report has shown that the Lagos state government had to call on the police, on the military to come. We expect that if they had arrived, they would have done all within their powers to maintain the peace. It's unfortunate that the report has shown that they had done more than was expected of them. But like I said, the military ought not to have been there in the first place. The police should have been there. And this takes me back to the recommendation in my response earlier. If the police is trained and retrained and made capable of handling these kind of situations, then we wouldn't have this. The police will typically come with things like cannon, water ball or something, stop protesters in their track without even having to use any bullets. But if that capacity is lacking, then you can see why the military was expected to, or was required to come in. But it's something that ought not to have happened, and there is actually no legal basis for that to have happened. I hope that answers the question.
On the show, do you have any more questions?
Yeah, okay. I think that's all, sir.
Wonderful, sir. Thank you so much for helping us dissect this issue that has been going on in the media. We really appreciate your contributions. We have ourselves gained more insights into some of the recommendations that were made by the panel and as to how the government should proceed in going forward. Now, before we go, do you have any recommendations, apart from the ones you gave earlier, or any contributions that you just like the general public to be aware of?
Yes, I think the End SARS protests have taught us a lot, both on the sides of ordinary citizens and the government. But for the citizens, yes, we have every right to protest and seek for the protection of our rights. But I would like to also advise, following the End SARS protest and the infiltration of the ranks of the protesters, it gave fodder for the negative narrative that followed, where it is said that it was all pushed by miscreants and disgruntled elements, especially the looting and everything that happened. Of course, there's basis to say that a 20th October incident triggered all that. But at the same time, probably if it was more coordinated, this just happened and there was no time for people to coordinate and control whatever was happening. But my advice to the youth specifically is that in similar scenarios in the future, it's important to ensure that their ranks are not infiltrated in the manner in which it was, so that a very noble cause would not now suffer the misfortune of mischaracterization going forward. That's the point I think I would like to drop here.
Thank you very much, sir. We really appreciate your time on the show this morning. We really appreciate your contributions. It has been amazing. This is a takeaway for the youth of the country. Like you said, it's important to make sure that our ranks cannot be disrupted by criminal elements who are seeking to cause chaos in whatever protest in the future that we plan to do, in whatever agenda we're trying to push forward as youths, even in trying to vote in the next president.
Even in governance.
Yes, even in voting in the next president of the country. Youth participation has to be a key thing that the political elites should look forward to. And they should also try to ensure that the lives and the properties of citizens of Nigeria should be protected by the relevant authorities and relevant bodies. No military or no police or no force should go violent on innocent Nigerians ever again, like this report has said. There are right procedures to these things. If you find someone guilty or consider him a criminal element, there are processes that you should follow according to the law. And then if you go outside this law, you should be punished, or whatever damage you have to incur should be incurred upon you. Now, thank you so much once again, Barrister, for joining us on the show. For you watching us, Barrister Dindam Killi is on the show with us. It's a wrap now on this segment of the show. He has done excellently well in dissecting the End SARS inquiry done by the judiciary panel that was set up by the Lagos State government. We hope you heard a lot. We hope you learned a lot. Now, we're going on a short break. When we return, we'll take you to the newspaper headlines and we'll do a short review of the stories for this morning. Thank you for staying with us. We'll be right back.